Hopefully a few more people will join from Miami, and I think I see here by names. If your name is not showing up, then please let us know if you're online. Otherwise, let me just go to the call-in info and the agenda. So the way that we structure this agenda is like heavily relying on Jarek and his team. So we're gonna go with the linksproteomics.org, and we were thinking that 15-minute presentation should be enough. Yeah. Do you wanna bring it up now? Is there anything that the DCIC group can, give you any answers or comments or anything that you want to discuss it in this meeting?
I have some slides that are going to present main points about links proteomics. It's not entirely ready because I'm still hoping that Bruce will finish another iteration before noon. But the basic idea is to show them, do a quick demo, explain again why we are doing this, show them a quick demo, and then ask them for feedback. And actually, maybe I could show you one slide which is talking about that, and maybe you can, if there's any suggestions, you can tell me if something should be included and so on, because and I don't know if you guys actually tried links proteomics. It's the latest version is not there yet, but if you go to linksproteomics.org, you can.
I saw the lens there, yeah.
See a couple of things, and among other things, you can explore different data centers and so on, and different assays, and it has two different types of views that we thought would make sense: assay view and data view. So these are the different lenses that would like to use, and you can click on these individual assays, and this is going to be sort of a protein level view. But if you actually click on assay view, since you're doing this, so maybe actually that's a good point that you are doing this. So if you click on assay view in the top tab,
yeah.
Yes. So this is a view that attempts to show entities that are being measured. Maybe you can click on P100 in the context of signal transduction pathways. And for P100, that specifically means for this default view. At this point, we're not showing more options here. But if you scroll down a little more, you will see, and you can read the text as well, you will see that we have gray nodes and red nodes. In this view, gray nodes are actually site-specific peptide, P100 peptides with site-specific annotations that indicate the phosphorylation site that is being targeted. As you remember, this is a targeted proteomics approach that has about 100 phosphopeptides whose abundance is estimated in this assay. And what we are showing here is which kinases, and these are the red nodes, are either known based on phosphosite plus to target these particular peptides, these particular motifs, plus kinases that are predicted to phosphorylate those particular sites. So the solid edges here are known, pairs, kinase, target site, and the dashed edges are predicted. And several different twists to that, but this is a sort of overall view of the entities, moieties that are being measured, and their relationship to signaling, signal transduction cascades, and in particular enzymes, kinases in this case, targeting those sites. And if things go well, we'll have a similar view for GCP by noon ready as well. For now, we have a substitute for that. So
yeah, just a very small comment. I mean, I know I'm nitpicking, but you maybe should consider the nodes for the kinases make different shape. I mean, right now, at first I didn't even notice that they were different color than the phosphosides. I mean, if you make them maybe little squares, it's again minuscule point, you know. But.
Yes, yeah, sure, yes. Any feedback is appreciated, and your first impressions, and we'll see what Jake has to say. I presented a very early version of that to him. At that time, it wasn't as nicely developed, and we have some text. Obviously, that text can be presented in a better way as well, so that it's kind of more visible, and it is abundantly clear what these nodes are, but changing their shape, of course, might also help. This is graphically not where it should be yet. It's, again, it's still under development, but you can still choose between two different types of predictions. So if you go to this bar with known plus predicted by position weight metrics, you can also go to Blossom 50, and so this will predict different set of kinases potentially targeting some of these peptides. This is related to the fact that this is all taken from known phosphorylation sites from phosphosite plus. For many kinases, we just don't have enough peptides that are known, and therefore it's difficult to even derive position weight metrics and then, based on a simple statistical model, predict whether a given site would likely be targeted by a kinase or not. So just using sequence motif at the level of sort of blast type alignment of these motifs. So this is for prediction when we don't have enough data to make this more in a more reliable way. But some people might still want to be interested in doing this, and there might be more types of predictions coming online later, and of course we need to make a better job of explaining the meaning of that. This text, their attempt to do so, but it's just the first tab at it.
So you said the target, like these kinases target P100 peptide probes. Do you mean they're substrates?
Yes, the P100 peptide probes are substrates for those kinases.
Okay. Because usually, like, target is used in the context of a small molecule, and having a kinase. But that might be just a little confusing. I mean, I had to ask a question, which doesn't mean much, but still.
Mm-hmm. No, that's another good point. The language there can certainly be improved, and we should have more sort of graphical representation here of a kinase and peptide pair. So that's something that we don't have online yet, but that's one of the things that we've been considering, with just kind of graphical description where you have a red shape, protein-like shape, hugging a peptide with a site in it, serine or threonine or tyrosine site in it, to kind of illustrate what we mean more graphically, and all kinds of things that could be added. But we thought that this kind of lens or assay view that shows relationship between the moieties that are being measured, and in general it's going to be more options later, all kinds of biological entities, pathways, signal transduction pathways, and directly kinases, is going to be something that then would allow to combine, first interpret data better, but also in the future to combine this with small molecule inhibitors of some of those kinases, for example, and they are either transcriptional or some other level signatures that could be displayed by redirecting traffic to other sites developed by DCIC.
I have another question. So for these predicted relationships here for the substrates, right? Does that information also come from the phosphosite plus, or you use another type of prediction?
So for the position weight matrices, we derive them from phosphosite plus, from all the peptides that are known to be targeted by a given kinase. The reason for that is that the P100 peptides are often not directly experimentally known to be targeted by many of these kinases, but similar peptides are. So we are taking all known peptides targeted by a given kinase. We position weight matrix where we have probability of observing an amino acid at any given position within the peptide motif. And then we assign probability score for the P100 peptide, and if it is sufficiently high, we have an edge. So the population of peptides known to be targeted is taken from phosphosite plus. The prediction is our own step.
Okay. Do you have it somewhere described here, this similar, how the similarity was? I'm sorry.
Well, I would assume it's a block sum algorithm. It's kind of a standard, that's what that blossom comes from. It's kind of a standard way to pairwise measure similarity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So
I mean, I don't know how they would weight the block sum score to the probability distribution, but
so there are two.
Interested in getting in there and looking at this.
There are two different. So sorry, I should explain is that there are two different ways of doing this one more time. One is by position weight metrics, assuming that we have enough representative peptides targeted by, phosphorylated by any given kinase, so that we can actually build a probabilistic model, because for each amino acid at each position we have a probability, and for a P100 peptide we can compute the overall probability of observing that among targets of any given kinase, substrates of any given kinase. But if we don't have, I think we have a threshold of at least 5 or maybe 10, I don't remember at this point, peptides to derive that position weight matrix. But when I have just one known peptide that is a known substrate of a given kinase, then we would just take this motif that is known to be a substrate and would take a P100 motif, would align them so that the serine or tyrosine or threonine site is aligned and other positions are aligned, and now let's just take Blossom 50 score for this alignment.
Right, which is
right, and if that Blossom 50 score is significantly higher than what we would estimate will represent a random match, then we say it's a predicted relationship.
Makes sense.
Right, so I must say that this was very useful already for me, because I clearly overestimated how much time this, or underestimated how much time this may take to explain things that are not even properly necessarily described on the website yet. In addition to assay view, we have data view, where the idea is, and it's with this version it's not fully developed either, but you can go to data view. So the idea is that it would display now specific perturbations and profiles or signatures for specific perturbations. So you can actually search here, and it is displayed with a sort of first iteration heat map that will be replaced by something more interactive. If you can click and go to iLinks, yes, that will be a global view. This is the global view of the entire P100. But if you go back, just go back to the other tab, you can just scroll down and you'll have just a view of these signatures. These are just average profiles, expression profiles over replicates for this particular perturbation, small molecule in some cells, and this is all at this point just for quick visualization, and this will be replaced by more interactive heat map view, the type of provided by Morpheus. But the distinction between assay view and data view is that the latter is data-centric. It actually is meant to show or enable exploring the signatures of different perturbations, whereas assay view is meant to make interpretation of what this data means easier by placing this in the context of biological pathways and other entities that are related to what is actually being measured. Because otherwise it's hard to say what is really being captured by this particular phosphostate for, say, P100. And in addition to that, we have things that are simple things that everyone would like to have, which is, for example, we have this download tab, which was going to immediately send you to a Mars version of the LDP. And by the way, guys, great job on the paper, and thanks for being very inclusive when sending the paper. So Amar has this view that is still available through dev version, but this is the one that actually enables to display just proteomics data sets right away. So that's one of the first things that people would like to have. There is also a collection of tools. That's another tab in links proteomics, where your suggestions as to what should be included would also be, of course, welcome. And right now we have sort of just a couple of tiles, and both PyNet and PyLinks that we are working on are meant to be part of, for PyNet, the assay view, expanded assay view, where we are going to have more options once all of that is ready, and PyLinks for the data-centric, for data view. But we want to have other tools, and in particular, if there is something that we should be adding as part of, developed as part of the DCIC, that's definitely where we need more input. So that's a quick overview.
Thank you, Yannick. This site is really coming up nicely.
And it has still ways to go, and in particular to make clear what is that we're actually displaying when we have this assay view and so on. But I think once we add more options there and people can explore different pathway projections, it will become more natural to see the whole goal, aim of that kind of view.
All right.
Right, so point two, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's keep going because we have still obviously some work to do before 12. The data processing pipeline dockerization, I put Yarek's name down. I know Mario's on the call too. I hope he's going to be there at 12 in the meeting. We talked a little bit yesterday about that. Actually, like I guess good 15 minutes during the data working group. I'm not sure if Jake was there, but we might need to basically go over the same introduction, maybe a little shorter, and then talk specifically about Jake's pipelines, right?
Right. Yes, and I think the real goal here is to make sure that they are comfortable with whatever is going to happen, and actually deciding specifically what's going to happen, whether they really want us to Dockerize the current pipeline, whether they have a plan to actually change it as indicated before, and maybe they have a plan to actually Dockerize this themselves. So we need to be on the same page and make sure that Jake has a chance to express his opinion.
So just
right.
like sorry, go ahead, Mario.
I just want to make sure that we are all clear on the urgency of this, right? So that this is not something that, well, we can just wait for a year for them to develop a new version of their pipeline, or at least that's the way I understand it, and that, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that this is now the way to release the pipeline, and NIH wants this now, right? And I'm not quite sure, Dušica, are we at this point now saying that pipelines are not released until they are Dockerized? Or what is our, how does this Dockerization fit in the overall reporting, right, on pipelines?
Right. We can check with Ajay on that. Maybe we can just put like a third information because we had the primary template, right? Just the text description of the steps, and then we had the actual pipeline that's being that actually has been validated and released on GitHub with all the documentation. That was like the next step, and then I will say this is the third step. So let's just check with Ajay if we're gonna report these 3 steps separately. I think once we have, because the centers are like all over the place with these 3 steps. I think when we have like all centers going through one step, maybe we can drop that step out. But at this point, let's just ask Ajay and see. Maybe it's still good to report all 3 steps.
Okay. So, but I guess in the conversation with Jake, we're gonna convey that this is now integral part of the process of releasing the pipeline, right? It's not something that can be postponed, right? While pipeline is officially released, right?
Right. So, but let's just think through, because this is going to be work, like if they say, you guys go, like DCIC is responsible for Dockerization. Like the next round of reports is going to be end of September. So let's see what's feasible by that time, because then it's going to look like, Dockerization is not done if it's part of the report, and then they're going to easily, like blame us for not having that done. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see your point, but that is, I guess, one of the processing or definitions of this process is the time it would take us to Dockerize once the first 2 steps have been completed, right? Once the pipeline is finished and released, and how long it's going to take us to actually Dockerize it. There should be a time, right, that we have to do that. Now, with Jake's pipeline, the fact that we already went through these first 2 steps, I think, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I see your point. We should be careful because we are somewhat new to this whole process, and I'm tempted to say it should be no problem with Dockerizing his pipeline in its current form, but you never know until you try. I mean, there are things that crop up that we didn't anticipate before, and then. Okay, I see your point. So we need to kind of tread lightly on it until we hear from Ajay how exactly this needs to be organized.
Right. Actually, Jake suggested to invite Ajay to today's meeting, which I did, but Ajay's away, so I doubt he's going to be joining today. But we're going to meet Ajay on Monday. He's back on 21st, so we can discuss about this. But I would just be a little bit careful with Jake about this, like saying, you know, what we should say it's mandatory and it's urgent, but maybe not put the hard deadline on that. It depends, like, who's going to be assigned to it, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you know, like your group is doing it, if DCIC is doing it, then the question is like if it's going to be ready for the September report. So,
Right.
yeah. So, yeah, take it. Okay, anything else for the data processing pipeline localization that we need to think of?
Right, so I don't know, Jarek, did you I had these slides yesterday. I can send them to you to just kind of go over the general picture of this Dockerization. So I don't know, maybe it's going to help you introducing this to Jake.
Yeah, I mean, sir, we can do it that way, or you can just do it yourself if you prefer.
It's same to me, so.
Yeah, so yeah, if you want me to integrate some slides, and then we can both chime in. Yeah, so that's sure.
Okay. All right. So maybe I can give a first few words. See basically whether Jake was yesterday there, right? In the DWG. If he was there, there is no point for me to repeat myself. Then, you know, you can just discuss where you and Cruz stand with this. If he was not there, I can give a 2 or 3 minutes overview, or very quick overview of what I said yesterday, right, in general, and then you can take over.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. For the CRISPR dataset status and the plan, I don't think there was much progress made since our last quarterly meeting. As I mentioned to Jarek the other day, the final decision that was made in that meeting is that they're going to basically rebuild the files. They're going to change, let me just bring it up. Actually, I think I edited this sheet during the meeting. Just give me a second. You guys see anything that will resemble that? Perturbation types, here we go. Here we go. That's the one. So, this note actually was taken on May 4th during that meeting. We said that they're going to use the same annotation as the growth transcriptomics for the CRISPR reagents. That's going to be the perturbation type. However, last time when I saw their data, it still had the previous, whatever they call it, like disruption or something.
Yeah, disruption.
Right, it was still there, but I haven't checked the files like lately if they replaced them. But I guess you guys will get any some type of notification, like a trigger from Panorama, if the files are replaced, right? And I suppose it's going to happen.
Yeah, they still have disruption.
Okay. So then let's just catch up on that and see. Jake had a comment that actually we didn't report on the CRISPR data set in these RPPR reports to NIH. So, and I suggested we can package it as it is, but the idea was that they will replace the data files, so we were postponing the processing. So let's talk about that today and define some timeline, because it's not in the LDP, so we didn't report it. And we're not actually processing it because the files are still not final. But if this is taking forever, maybe we can still go ahead and process what's there. And then once they replace the files, we just push it out as a new version. So I think we should suggest that today.
Yes, sounds good. And actually, I would like to touch on something else while we are talking about this, because that could be also important. So do you guys know anything about the set of peptide probes for GCP CRISPR being different from the GCP peptide probe set for chemical perturbations? Because this is what we observe now that the GCP has CRISPR data, and we started looking at this. What we find is that there are peptide moieties that are being quantified, measured for the CRISPR part, that were not included in the chemical perturbation data.
Is it still 100 probes?
No, it wasn't 100 probe. It was 60 or so probes.
Okay.
But they're different now.
Okay. I mean, I can imagine that, you know, for the CRISPR assay, he might need different representative probes, but I was not aware of it. I don't know if any of you guys look at that, because we didn't process the data still, so we haven't registered any peptides.
So, okay, yeah, I just wanted to see whether anybody is aware of that. So I'll prepare something for the meeting as well, and maybe this is the time to ask Jake. Or should I do this at some other point?
I don't know. I guess it depends on how much time we're going to have. It's up to you. It's up to you.
Right, okay, so let's see how, how much time I take to go through links proteomics and other things. And yeah, if we have time, then that could be part of the discussion about CRISPR. Because if there's change in the probe set between CRISPR and chemical perturbation, that has some implications for how the data can be aggregated later, right?
Right. I mean, I can see that the different representative peptides will be more relevant for, because they are hitting different pathways with the CRISPR. But but I was not aware of it. So yeah, let's bring it up if we have time.
Okay.
Or maybe, I mean, we just left 5 minutes for this. Another thing actually that we discussed in the previous meeting, but that still didn't happen, is how we're going to organize these data. Like if we're going to put it together with the other, like the small molecule based perturbations, or it's going to separate. So it was still not clear completely to me. So we said like we're going to take a middle road, whatever that means. So once we start implementing, actually we need to define that into the details, like how exactly we're going to package. Like basically having like one big data set that can be like sliced and diced. So I don't know if still not sure how to implement that in the data portal. Like in Michaela's tool, everything is sliced and diced. So it's basically on the endpoint level, but in the LDP data sets concept, I'm not sure how that's going to fit. So we might need actually another meeting just for CRISPR at some point, when we decide to process it.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
And I think actually that you're bringing up, because that's going to be then really like, kind of like a completely shifted matrix, like if you want to put it together, because the perturbations are different and readouts are different. So it's going to be very hard to align to the small molecule perturbations.
Yeah, unless what we observe is some kind of inconsistency in processing, or I don't know. All right, so let's see how far we can get, and if there is time, we can mention this as a way to maybe suggest another meeting to discuss CRISPR.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we're gonna, go with anything between, one data set and the individual data sets. I think we need a clear definition of how exactly that data set is going to look, like how it's going to be organized. And, Jake is very specific, so I think we should definitely have an input from him, how he wants to show the data in the portal. Okay. Okay, let's move on. So the small molecules, IDs, and metadata. These are mainly the issues that have been already discussed and shown in that meeting. The previous quarterly meeting. So at this point, actually, we had a document. How did I get there? Let me just quickly open this. Maybe I should put in the slides, actually. Where is that document? Sorry. Sorry, I just don't see it for some reason. I had it open yesterday. Small molecule proposal. Okay, I don't see it here. I apologize. For some reason, it's not opening. I'll have to track it down. But basically, that was a list of the issues that we had and then proposals. And just to name a few, there was like these broad canonical IDs. And then we had an issue about the batch sample ID. So we now have a proposal how that to be generated by PCCSE. Then we had the question about the actual aggregation on a higher canonical level, which we called a grandparent level, and we are working actively on that. And that's the whole point, actually, in like clustering this. It should be the same compound cases. And then we had a question about the synchronization between the LBP and Panorama. As you remember, last year we had some changes on the links IDs, and they haven't propagated that to Panorama. So I'm not completely sure how easily that can be done if they have to rebuild the files and put them back into the repository. So these are some of the things that we already proposed some solutions. And hopefully today, the document was shared with them a long time ago, and then after restructuring and adding more proposals to that, shared again. So hopefully they will review it in the meantime, so that, like we can quickly go over that and make decisions today how to move forward. Another one is experimental metadata specifications. So according to Jake, the email he sent earlier this week, it seems that they are done. So let me just quickly bring that up, and I really hope it's going to now come up. I don't know why I cannot find the document. The other one. So this one here. So he said that they're done with defining the specifications, assay-based specifications. So this should be valid for P100 and GCP. And then here he had some examples, and he says it's based on GCP. So if you guys have time, we're going to be discussing this briefly today. So basically what we want is to release these templates and then to start to collect the data. So if you can review it in the meantime, like whoever is, I guess Jarek is also, again, like the closest, most familiar with the data and probably the best expert. But everyone is invited to review this document and see if something is missing, something like crucially important to describe the assay and the experiment is missing in these specifications, so we can bring that up.
Oh, Dushita, could you please send link to that one more time, because those things are sometimes hard to find, and I will definitely have a look.
Yeah, I put it in the chat of the GoToMeeting, and I can also add it to the agenda here. So let me do. Let's just do it here.
So it also, in all these points, these are important points, it tells me that I need to cut, sort of optimize my demo of links proteomics and ask for feedback maybe later offline, unless they really are interested and they want to focus on that.
Right, right. I mean, I was afraid that we're going to have a very busy agenda, and that's exactly what's happening here. So yes, maybe that's the best way to go. Let you present, and then let them, you know, just browse around and look, and maybe, you know, collect the feedback later. We can follow up then on feedback if you, yeah, because if you start discussing, it's probably going to take more than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I really hope that we can actually skip this one, but sorry, this one, the small molecule study and metadata, but we still have some issues there, and I'm really hoping that, you know, like they will be coming there after reviewing the document and making up their mind. And solving, right? Like finding a common solution, because like so far we have done it. And we have been like back and forth. And that's not exciting. It's again about metadata and the IDs, but still. That for the data integration, we do take that seriously. And we put like a lot of work in the small molecule area curation and standardization and validation of all the metadata. So yes, if you guys then like, you know, can review these experimental metadata specifications, what's already in there. But, you know, like if you know that something big is missing, so we can explicitly say that, you know, just right there without actually spending the time in the meeting. And then if needed again, I think we might have to schedule like a few more smaller meetings, maybe with 2 people. But I also wanted, you know, like to catch up with them, because we haven't actually made a lot of progress since the last quarterly meeting in processing the data and the metadata issues.
Sounds good.
So, okay, we still have a little bit of work to prepare for the meeting with Jake. Did you guys want to talk about anything else?
This is Kathleen. I just had one little item to follow up on earlier part of this call. I was looking at my notes from yesterday's data working group meeting, and it doesn't look like Jake was present there, just so that you know.
Yeah, I saw Adam was in the meeting at some point, but I haven't Jake, so. So yeah, we might need to introduce again the dockerization.
Okay.
But we have slides. All right. So if there is nothing else, then we reconvene at 12.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's good. Bye.
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 Can you